The desert stretched endlessly, its golden dunes rising and falling like the waves of an alien ocean. The sun beat down with an intensity that seemed unnatural, even for a place where the heat was the law of nature. In the midst of this vast, unforgiving landscape, an unusual figure stumbled across the sand, barely able to keep her balance. Her pale, silver skin glistened under the harsh sunlight, and her emerald eyes, now bloodshot from exhaustion, flickered with the last remnants of life. She was an alien, a visitor from a distant planet, and she was dying. Her body, unlike any humans, was built to withstand different climates and conditions. But the vast desert was something else entirely. The water in her small high-tech canteen had long run out, and her energy reserves were nearly depleted. As she collapsed onto the hot sand, her mind began to fade in and out. The voices of her people, distant and intangible, echoed in her mind, urging her to hold on. But it was no use. There was nothing left to hold on to. And then, just as she was on the verge of giving up, she heard a sound she had not expected. Footsteps. A figure appeared on the horizon, silhouetted by the harsh sunlight. The alien woman blinked her blurry eyes, trying to focus. The figure came closer, and through the haze, she saw it was a human, one of the creatures she had read about but never truly understood. A human with dusty boots, a long brown coat, and a rugged face that showed the wear of someone who had spent too much time out in the unforgiving wilderness. He was walking towards her with purpose, as if drawn to her in the middle of the vast desert. "Hey, you there," he called out, his voice rough but warm, like a lifeline in a sea of solitude. She tried to speak, to say something, but her throat was parched beyond comprehension. All she could do was watch him approach, her body too weak to move. The human knelt beside her, his expression a mix of confusion and concern. His gaze flickered from her alien features to the desolation of the desert around them. "You're not from around here, are you?" he said, his voice softening. What happened to you?" She struggled to find words, but her breath was shallow, the dry air choking her. Her vision blurred as darkness closed in. And then, something remarkable happened. The man reached into his coat, pulling out a canteen filled with water. He uncapped it, and the cool, clear liquid shimmered under the sun. "Drink," he urged gently. "It's not much, but it's all I've got." The alien woman reached for the canteen, her fingers trembling. She held it to her lips, feeling the coolness against her parched skin. She sipped, feeling the liquid sliding down her throat, replenishing something inside her that had been long depleted. The water gave her a surge of strength, and her vision cleared as her body began to recover. For a long moment, she just stared at the man. He was different from anything she had encountered on her journey. There was no fear in his eyes, no hesitation, only quiet compassion. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice rasping from the dryness, but her gratitude was clear. The man nodded, his face softening. "I'm just glad I found you. The desert's a harsh place for anyone, no matter where you're from." For a while, they both sat in silence, the man drinking from his own canteen and the alien woman trying to regain her strength. "I'm Arya," she said after a while, her voice steadier now. She struggled with the human language, her tongue not quite accustomed to the strange syllables, but she pressed on. "I'm from far away." He smiled gently, his eyes twinkling with interest. "Well, Arya, I'm Carter. I've seen my share of strange things out here in the desert, but I can honestly say I never thought I'd meet someone like you." Arya's lips twitched into something resembling a smile. "I did not expect to find help here. The desert does not show mercy to travelers." Carter studied her for a moment, his brow furrowing. "What happened? How did you end up out here? You don't look like you're from around these parts." Arya hesitated, the weight of her story heavy on her shoulders. I am a traveler. My ship crashed. I was trying to find shelter, but the sandstorms, the heat. I lost my way. My people, they were supposed to help, but I was alone." Carter frowned, clearly trying to make sense of her words. "A ship crash. You mean to say you're not from Earth? Arya nodded slowly, her eyes lowering as a wave of homesickness washed over her. She longed for her people, the gentle hum of their advanced technology, the lush landscapes of her world. But those things were gone, scattered across the vastness of space. She was all that remained. I was not meant to be alone, she murmured. I was supposed to find help, to find safety. But now I don't know what's left. Carter watched her, his eyes softening with empathy. I can't promise I know how to get you back home, he said. But I'm not leaving you out here. I'll help you. We'll figure something out. Arya looked up at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. Why? Because, Carter said, his voice quiet but firm. I've been out here long enough to know that everyone needs help sometimes. And I think you're one of those times. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Arya felt the flicker of hope stir in her chest. She had no idea what the future held, but for the first time since the crash, she was not facing it alone. The next few days passed in a blur of motion. Carter led Arya across the desert, sharing what little supplies he had, teaching her about the ways of Earth. Though her physical strength returned, her mind often wandered to her home, to her people who would never know what had happened to her. Yet, as the days wore on, something else began to bloom between them, a connection, something deeper than gratitude. They shared stories, their conversations spanning the gulf of their vastly different worlds. They laughed, they struggled, and they dreamed together. Arya found herself captivated by Carter's strength, his quiet wisdom, and the way he looked at her. Not with fear or awe, but with genuine curiosity and care. One evening, as the two sat by a small fire, Arya found herself staring into the flickering flames. Carter watched her silently, his brow furrowing as he noticed the faraway look in her eyes. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. Arya took a deep breath, the firelight dancing in her eyes. "I am thinking about what it means to be lost, and what it means to be found." Carter moved closer, his hand gently brushing hers. "You're not lost anymore. And maybe you've found more than you expected." Arya's heart fluttered at his touch, the weight of their shared journey wrapping around her like the warm desert winds. She had never known love like this, so unexpected, so strange, yet so real. "I never expected this," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. Carter smiled, his thumb brushing the back of her hand. "Neither did I. But maybe sometimes, the universe has a way of bringing people together when they need each other the most." And as the desert stretched out before them, its sands eternal and unchanging, Arya realized that despite the distance between her home and Earth, she had found something far more precious than she could have imagined. A connection that transcended planets, a love that defied the odds. In the middle of the endless desert, surrounded by nothing but sand and